Hello all my hustlers and my magicians. Welcome back to another installment of Hustle-Mind-Magik. I'm your host, Diction. If you like the content, please hit us with a like and subscribe. The frequency of the video posts are going to be about 3 times a week or more. I don't want to limit myself, but I want to make sure that we do hit you with a consistent amount of content. So in my logo that you'll notice when it says with your host Diction, and the O on the Uno is the chaos magic symbol. And today we get into some content that involves chaos magic with the legendary Grant Morrison. He's a comic book writer. His comic book The Invisibles heavily inspired The Matrix, and he's also a practitioner of chaos magic, developed by Peter J. Carroll. There's some really infamous texts on that, like Psychonaut and Libernal. And the concept he gets into, he shows you how to make a basic sigil, and I've used this before, and it could definitely help you get results, as he'll mention in the video. It's going to be coming up, but he took this to a different level beyond making a sigil, which I recommend trying out and experimenting with, and making a super sigil. He's not the only person to do such a thing, as we're going to tie in some things the RZA did that, while not put in that framework of semantics, is definitely a similar concept. And there's others who have done this as well. But in his comic book The Invisibles, he tells the story of how he, in order to tweak reality, instead of just taking a symbol, if you're not familiar with what a sigil is, you create a symbol out of a statement of intent that you want to see in reality, and then you release it into your consciousness through a heightened state. It could be anger, it could be bungee jumping, it could be sexual climax. There's multiple ways that you can do it. And then it'll embed that into your subconscious to help it manifest things. And usually, like anything else, it's going to come when you let go of it. And so he's going to show you how he uses comic book as a super sigil, where he literally wrote himself into the plot of his comic books with this intent, and then started to actually experience the reality of anything that he did to that character in there. And he's also going to show you how to create just a regular basic sigil. The super sigil part being where you're really scripting your reality literally like that. And you'll see that stories about that with a lot of actors where they get into method acting and all of a sudden these things start to manifest in their lives. Now in the RZA's case, it's going to tell the story of how he went through a very stressful and traumatic transition at the end of producing a lot of the early Wu-Tang stuff, and he tells this story in the Tao of the Wu that he wrote. It's a really great book. I highly recommend that as well. And how he developed this persona or alter ego of Bobby Digital, but it literally, he started living this character in his life. And so his album, one could argue, became a super sigil. So we can use art and spells as spells rather to create and contort the reality to see the things that we want to see brought forth. And I'll get into, after this Grant Morrison and RZA clip, I'm going to get into another form of something I did that's not labeled as a sigil, but could be considered a form of a super sigil, and a process that I learned from my friend Joby One the Homie. Big ups to him. Check out Joby. He has a music online that you can check out. That's really great if you're into drum and bass and that sort of stuff. So without any further ado, I'm going to let Grant Morrison tell you the concept behind the super sigil, how he's used it, his experience with it, and he'll give you the formula on how to create a sigil, which you can do with a piece of paper and a pen. So if you've got things you want to bring forth in the reality, I recommend trying it out. Shout out to all my chaos magicians and chaots out there. And let's let Grant Morrison get into it before we come back. Thanks for tuning in to Hustle-Mind-Magik.
Use in the comic book that I was doing this thing called The Invisibles. And the idea was to kind of get all this down on paper and somehow look at it, not to accept it as reality, to accept it as purely this is part of human experience. It's a part of human experience that has been described to us for thousands and thousands of years, but for the last 200 has been hidden and made occult for some reason that I don't understand, but seems to have to do with the Industrial Revolution and corporate culture. So these things happen. Magic works. And when I started doing the comic, I found that you could actually make magic happen by writing things and changing the operating system of the universe. It works, and I'm here to tell you, to try it when you go home tonight, because it fucking works. And what happens if we all do it? Everyone in this room decides to take control of reality. I'm talking about reality. I'm talking about quantum physics. I'm talking about taking control of things from the quantum level up, from the molecular level up, and it works. This magic works. So I'll tell you something you can do while I'm here. One of the best techniques and one of the easiest techniques to prove that this thing works is to practice sigil magic. The technique is simple. Have a desire tonight. Go home and do this. Don't listen to this shit. Don't listen to my bullshit and go home and think, yeah, we are the fucking counterculture. Do it! Do it, and we will change the world. Right? Because I did it. I didn't trust those guys. I didn't trust Wilson. I didn't trust those people who told me we could do this stuff. And I'm here to tell you it works. And you can do it. We can all do it. Number one, first thing you do, write down a desire. Make it something easy that is likely to happen, something possible, rather than say, you know, I'm going to be king of the moon, which you may want to be, as we all do, but it's kind of hard to be king of the moon. You're going to have to get a rocket and go up there. So pick something easy. If you want to sigilize for a lottery win, make sure you buy a ticket, or else it won't work. So these are the conditions within the material universe that we live in. What I think is we're actually dealing with is some kind of operating system that can be hacked using words. And words seem to be the binding agent for this thing, whatever it is. So I wrote this comic book, and as I wrote it, it became true. Things I would make the characters do became true. The main character was, I gave him a bald head and a leather jacket because I thought people would like me when they read the comic. And bald heads were really uncool back in 1992. And it worked. I found that if I put the character through a situation where he was being tortured, where his lungs had burst and he was being held in captivity and subjected to all these awful things, 3 months later I'm in hospital, 2 burst lungs, dying of blood poisoning and facing exactly the same shamanic trial that I put my character through. So once I figured out that, I thought, well, the best thing to do is give this guy an easy time in the future. So as a result of all this, I just split up with my girlfriend, and I said, okay, I want a new one, and I want it to look exactly like this chick in the comic, because she's cool, you know. So I did a sigil. A month later, the girl turns up. Then another one, then another one, then another one, then another one. All aspects of this character, and I realised, oh fuck, this is insane, because it works, and I've done something ridiculous, because now I'm dealing with all these women who look like the character, but I don't get on with, or I can't talk to, or I can't deal with. And I began to realise a little bit about how this stuff works. So beyond that, I decided I won't just use it to get laid, because it seems pretty low grade kind of way of dealing with magic. but man, it works, believe me. And I thought, how much could you affect reality by writing a comic that mimicked reality but pushed it in weird directions? So around about 1997, I decided I would really seriously turn the thing into a super sigil. And it was based on the idea of, if you look at cave art, the first writing was done basically as art. And if someone wanted to make something happen, like if you were some like fucked up caveman in a cave somewhere moaning about your dinner, what do? You draw a bison on the wall, stick some spears in it, go out, and the bison dies filled with spears. And it's, hey man, we can make this happen. Slowly those things become letters, they become words, they become reduced to abstractions, complexes of meaning. And you can take that basic idea, and as we've seen, people like Austin Osman Spare, the magician from the early part of the century, or Crowley, or the Chaos magicians from the 80s, who were a big inspiration on me, they used this stuff. And what you can do is this, like I say, try this at home. Write down a desire. Quite simple, say, it is my desire that my cat wins the Olympics. Take out all the vowels. Right? Write this down, for fuck's sake, and do it. Don't just listen, do it, right? Take out the vowels, and you'll be left with a string of consonants. Take out the repeated consonants, and you'll be left with a string of consonants that have no repeats in it, whatever, X, Y, A, D, whatever. Turn that thing into a little image. Take the D, draw a big D, then you've got a T, draw a T under it, and keep reducing it down until it looks magical. And there are no rules for this thing. Do it until it looks magical. At that point, you now have a sigil. The sigil will work. You can project desire into reality and change reality. It works. Those must be the people who've done it. So please, write this down, go home and do it and check it, verify the results, because scientific procedure, I was reading this thing in New Scientist this week, and they said the difference between bad science and good science is that scientific procedure has 3 criteria. And the criteria are that you can verify results, you can talk to other people who've done the thing and make sure, that it works out. You can duplicate results, and also some other thing I'm forgotten. But yeah, 2 things is fucking good, isn't it? 2 out of 3. This is verifiable. People have been telling us about this for thousands of years. The Tibetans have been telling us about this. The Mesopotamians have been telling us about this. And why has it been made occult? Because Coca-Cola have got the secret. These people know what we're talking about here, because what you do is you create a sigil. Coca-Cola is a sigil. The McDonald's M is a sigil. These people are basically turning the world into themselves using sigils. And if we don't reverse that process and turn the world into us using sigils, we're going to be living in fucking McDonald's. Right, but McDonald's have no more power than us.
So I hope you enjoyed that clip from Grant Morrison. He dropped a lot of knowledge there and even gave you some graphic visuals on how to really create a sigil and the basics on how to use one. As promised, I'd like to tell you about an experience and another possible technique you could use before we get into a brief description of how and why the RZA used Bobby Digital as a device to shift his reality and created an album that is essentially a super sigil and affected his life. And in Alter Ego is another way that you can use to kind of shift into a parallel reality as well. Because as you believe, if you really full-heartedly go into it, and again, we talked about how method actors have had that experience, it can really bring things into your actual reality. So another form of what I realized is very similar to a sigil is a letter to the universe. I used this one time, and what it is you just write a letter to the universe or God, whatever you want to, term the greater force of oneness that connects all things, super intelligence, super conscious mind. And just, asked, and I would recommend when you do this, if you're going to try this out, to be extremely specific on what it is that you're going to want to bring forth, because we all know about the stories about, be careful what you wish for and that sort of thing. And there's a million examples of those in old parables and, old mythology and things like that. And probably you have some experiences in your real life when you got some things you thought you wanted and didn't pan out. So I would recommend that. But I wrote a letter at a time when I was going through a tumultuous period with someone I was dating. And I wanted to manifest somebody that I thought we would be a better fit together in my life. So I wrote a letter very specifically about this person, about everything. And this is something I recommend too, but you could do this for a job, you could do this for anything, realistically. This is just the example of where I first used it and saw some success. And what I put in there, I put in, this little technique is, you put in something that's real specific so that it gives you a tell when it comes forward. Because one of the key parts of bringing any of this stuff forward is, it may take a while because you kind of tend to obsess over it in the beginning or doubt it that it'll happen, and then you let go of it. When you let go of it entirely, it'll clear the way for it to come forward, and it's usually when you least expect it. This took a year to happen. But I put in there that the girl one of the small things I put that really tipped me off when I met this girl a year later, and then we ended up dating for 2 years. And it fulfilled everything in the letter, was that they had to like this one specific A Tribe Called Quest song. And I released it at a time of, I was in a lot of real pain and anguish at the time I released it. So any powerful feeling, and you'll see this in the teachings of Chaos Magic, I prefer, and I think it's best, that you manifest things from a state of, a happier feeling, because I think it can shape how the manifestation comes through and what eventually becomes of it at the end of the road. However, any feeling, any intense feeling is going to impress the subconscious mind. So that worked. And then I burned the letter. Now that helps you metaphorically and physically let go of it. And I oftentimes, when we burn things, I see this like different color on the flame as it's going finally out, like a little spark, something to show you that, hey, something's happening here. And that really worked for me. So, I'd recommend, try that out. Go ahead and if you try any of these things out, whether it's a sigil or whether it's a letter to the universe, let us know in the comments how it worked out for you. And if you end up doing Bobby Digital, I recommend maybe picking a safer alter ego, because if you read RZA's book and get further into it, the video clip I'm going to show here is only going to get really briefly into his experiences with it. But you can kind of tell just from the character, and if you read the book and what happened, it was a very dangerous, tumultuous time in his life when that happened. So you want to be careful with these things again, but hey, you're going to learn something from everything. I'm not here to spoil anybody's party. As you believe, so shall be done unto you, and it's a free will universe. But yeah, these are some techniques that I've used not only to success, but I think are very interesting to explore in the fabric and the nature of how our reality is created and how we play a part, or how we control what we want to bring forward in that reality. And Grant makes some great points in the video too that I didn't really address earlier, but I think are wonderful, about that if we all start taking control of our reality more, then it's a trickle effect where it'll get to where if everyone's doing that in a positive way, with the right intent, that could shift the entire reality as a whole. It can have ripple effects on it, and butterfly effects that can shift a lot of the larger parts of the reality and the collective consciousness that, are less desirable, that bring forth things that, imprison people or take the soul out of things or give birth to the Illuminati or whatever you want to say, whoever it is that controls things. And really what it is just people who have the knowledge to do that and have accumulated and power through it, and then they control different parts of perspective and belief. So I really do believe we all have equal power of God or the universe inside of us. It's just when we link it together. And so I think that was a really cool point that Grant makes in his video as well. And there's a reason he's a comic book legend. The man has lived a fascinating life. You can look up more information on him. And also, looking further into chaos magic, there's all kinds of techniques in there that can be really useful in one's life on the spiritual journey and quest to, get closer to God or the universe and shape our realities for the better, not just for ourselves, but for the whole. And to bring forth some new hustles and to bring forth some new goals and that sort of thing. So it's really limitless. So thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. I'm going to leave with this clip of the RZA, the example. We've already gotten into why it and how it correlates to the topic of the day, which is the super sigil. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll definitely have more episodes. Please hit us with a like and a subscribe if you enjoy the content. Share with your friends and that sort of thing. And at the end, I'll advertise my music. I definitely do music as well, and I speak on a lot of topics like this in my music, so I recommend checking that out. You can find me at Diction on all the platforms that you can really want to look for. So thanks again for tuning in. This has been Diction Hustle-Mind-Magik. To all my hustlers and my magicians, I'm out. Have a great day.
Years of Rakim working like a maniac, he had transformed into something else. And instead of being a prince, he was now a funky-smelling workaholic, working days upon days. But by 1997, all this behavior would come to an end, when RZA found out he had been betrayed by his wife, as well as being let down by the clan. RZA was crushed both physically and mentally. And to take back all the years he had missed out on, RZA decided to become someone else. His name was Bobby Digital, and from 96 to 99, he made up for all the lost time he had been spending in the basement, making music, playing video games, and cooking turkey burgers. The word Diggy in Bobby Digital has two different meanings, one being digital technology and the other being PCP mixed with weed. The word made total sense for Bobby Digital, because during the night he was a party animal, and during the day he would be studying. However, the lifestyle wasn't sustainable in the long run, and by the day Rakim lost his mother, Bobby Digital lost all his powers.